Very few games have captured my attention like Tribes Ascend did when it first came out, primarily because there simply weren't many games like it that existed at the time, and there still isn't, really, even years later. This game is, in many senses, a reboot of a series of games that came out in the 90s, during what many consider to be the golden age of arena FPS, when the likes of Doom and Unreal Tournament were starting to get popular. This game focused on speed, much like those arena games, but it did so in a different manner. Arena FPS was contained in relatively small spaces. Tribes is set out across entire battlefields, and the manner in which you navigate those battlefields, which you see on the screen right now, is what makes Tribes unique. Because the most recent Tribes game before Ascend had come out such a long time ago, it was obvious from the get-go that it was going to attract a totally new group of people to it, and it did, including myself. It had the usual free-to-play complaints, though, arguably pay-to-win, took too long to grind shit out, etc. Still, it was popular and enjoyed a relatively well-regarded competitive scene for some time, and was praised by critics like Total Biscuit. But after a long time, the studio responsible for the game's well-being, Hi-Rez, decided to put most of their time into a MOBA instead called Smite, and Tribes was, for the most part, abandoned. Hi-Rez claimed that the game was finished and didn't need to be kept up. The only thing that they were responsible for was keeping the servers running. This severely irritated many. But after years of radio silence, the game did get an update very recently, aptly called Out of the Blue, that massively overhauled the game's class and progression systems. So now I'm talking about it. The premise of the game is different, as you can imagine, and may take some getting used to for some, but it's still very fun when you put enough time into it. Moving across these large maps is based entirely off of momentum. You have a jetpack and a system that eliminates friction from the bottom of your feet, basically. The combination of these two systems is called skiing. It's easy to pick up, but has a very, very high skill ceiling. Combat is made up of a bit more dynamic notes, with lots of weapon types. Some of them encompass your basic assault rifles, sniper rifles, and shotguns that you know of from other FPSs, but then there's impact weapons, which are pretty much splash weapons. Particularly the Spin Fuser. This is the weapon that defines Tribes, or at least for the most part. It's pretty straightforward. It fires an explosive disc in a straight line. The most common and effective tactic with these weapons is to use the Spin Fuser for targets on the ground to make usage of the splash damage, and then to use your other weapons for targets in the air. Some of the other weapons are hit scan, some of them are not. For instance, what was once the Soldier's assault rifle will require you to lead your targets a little bit, but the Eagle pistol will not. And Soldier is a bit of an archaic term to describe classes that don't really exist in the game anymore, though some of you who might have played this game in the past would have recognized that term. I'll get to the classes in a bit, but a little bit more on weapons. You might get called out by some for making usage of these conventional weapons, these automatic weapons. These people will be called tryhards, and I don't listen to them. All the weapons in this game feel unique and have their own unique place in the game's meta. There's also vehicles, a bike, a tank, and a jet, and they're okay. I don't really make usage of them myself. Now, there used to be 9 distinct classes in the game, distinguished by their armor type. Light, medium, heavy. You can figure out the relationship between armor and mobility in this game then. Now, such classes still exist, but classes are much, much more customizable now. Now, the player selects an armor type, and the weapons and gadgets that come along with it instead. Much less concrete. Capture the Flag is by far the most popular game mode on offer, understandably since it's easily the most developed, and I think the most fun. 2 flags, one for each team at opposite ends of the map, you know the drill, set up at bases. The bases have generators that provide power to base defenses and various gadgets that exist on the base, like inventory stations, which provide you with ammo and the ability to change classes, as well as base defense turrets. Capture the Flag amounts to 3 things then: the flag, the base, and killing shit. You're either trying to cap the flag, or trying to snipe flag carriers. You're either trying to defend your base and its generator, or blow up the enemies. The other less specialized classes can generally do a little bit of everything. This delicate balance among teams when you're in a match comprised of like-skilled players can culminate in very, very intense battles. And like I said, Tribes is the kind of game that has a high skill ceiling too, and fights that can end in a matter of a few shots can last a good deal of time. There's nothing quite like coming out on top in an uneven duel, or putting an end to an enemy flag carrier's long and arduous ventures with a well-placed sniper shot. The game's been out for a while, but there are newbie servers for anyone just getting started with it. Just be forewarned that once you start playing with the big boys at around level 8, things are going to get much more intense. And I think that's ultimately a better thing. There's a reason this game was so popular in its prime. I'm glad to see that it's not dead. If you like team-based games, then I highly recommend that you give Tribes Ascend a shot. And if you like this video, I highly recommend that you subscribe. Thanks so much for watching.
We have the sword as flag. Heavy hostile nearby. Diamond Sword has secured their flag.